Did anybody else feel like this was the most badass chapter of this book so far?
Yes.
I felt like I couldn't fucking follow it for the life of me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Laura and I were actually discussing this. We were like, oh, it's the battle chapter.
Yay.
I was like, man, I really preferred the human drama of the previous chapter.
Oh my gosh.
Give me a worm tongue.
we're
Give me
not,
kicking him out and telling him to lay on your belly.
Yeah, we're not action movie enthusiasts over here.
No.
Well, this was an action chapter. Of
Exactly.
course, we are talking about Helms Deep, Chapter 7 from the Two Towers. And welcome to Full of a Took.
Our last episode was Chapter 6, The King of the Golden Hall. Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli arrive in Edoras to a very cool welcome. They may only meet with King Theoden if they lay down their weapons. The old bent king is suspicious of their motives on the counsel of his advisor, Wormtongue. Gandalf convinces Theoden that Wormtongue cannot be trusted and that Saruman must be dealt with right away. Before they all depart for Isengard, Theoden presents each of them with gifts, Shadowfax for Gandalf, and great armor for Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. In his absence, Theoden's niece Éowyn is left in charge to lead the people of Edoras to a safe stronghold. That was really hard to
Did you guys ever see the movie Dodgeball?
Yeah.
There's this great scene in Dodgeball that is, I feel, directly a ripoff of somebody who read Tolkien. And Ben Stiller walks up in like this bar to Vince Vaughn, and he's like, "My team is so cool. Look at this team." And these like big buff dodgeball players walk up, and he's like, "This is Laser. This is Blazer. This is Taser."
Oh my God. Yeah.
I was just like, you were like Theoden, and then the Éowyn, and then the Taywin. I was like, I'm like having a stroke listening.
They all fucking rhyme.
It was like crazy.
Dr. Seuss.
That's like an old English tradition of naming conventions, right? In names that like rhyme with another name or are very well related to the other one, a couple letter changes, whatever. Another old English tradition is violence. And that brings us directly into Helm's Deep.
Sure does.
Legitimately, I didn't realize that we were reading like the action episode of Helm's Deep. I thought this was going to be like a big setup. Like this would be called Helm's Deep. And I'm not looking at the next chapters ever. Like I find out what they're called here at the pod. And so I thought it was going to be like Chapter 7, Helm's Deep, Chapter 8, like
Shit hits the fan.
The battle for Helm's Deep.
yeah, the battle of the cove or whatever, you know, or battle of the valley. And I'd be like, oh, now it's happening. And man.
Yeah, he's been pretty descriptive with his chapter titles so far. So this one kind of threw us for a loop.
This is an author who spent like 3 chapters in the Old Forest. We spent most of a book inside the Shire. And now, like, all that's gone. It is go time. This whole book is just, he's letting the throttle out and we're just flying into stuff.
Yeah.
We're flying through problems. There's a lot of blood everywhere, but we're gonna keep going.
We got knife problems.
We got knife problems. Oh my God, do we got knife problems?
Yes.
And it happened real fast.
It did.
Big knives, small knives, all kind of knives.
Gandalf comes back from the dead and it's like, things are different now. And boy fucking howdy are things different now.
Yeah.
It's knife time. Go.
Right?
Yeah.
It happens fast. And a couple things that come up in this chapter are, one, the tide is changing. This what we see in this chapter is what Gandalf meant. Confusion gives way to decisiveness. Inaction becomes action. The relentless assaults of evil get turned back a little bit.
The relentless.
Oh my God. Folks, the relentless.
What's that character's name?
Nandor.
Nandor.
I relentless.
They said, please relent. I said, no.
That's Gimli or Gimli, whatever his name is.
Gimli.
Being like, please relent.
No. Gambling.
No. We are the fighting you cry. No. Oh, fuck, that's got to come back up.
Yeah.
Aragorn, when he stands on the fucking edge, he goes, I am relentless.
Please relent. They said no. And then what we also have is this, it's very much a humans helping humans story. And that is to say, like, not just the narrative is changing, the whole world is changing. Even Theoden, as a character, says, like, I'm an old man in a changing world and I don't fucking like it. And then he gets his sword to go find sword problems.
Yeah.
Which is good because his kingdom is falling apart, right? There's Mordor and marauders in the east. There's trouble in the north. Gondor's getting all fucked up down south. And his old wizard friend is no longer his wizard friend. Saruman is, like, burning his country. So that brings us to them leaving. And so they ride out. They leave Edoras that day. And they ride through these, like, golden fields at sunset. And it was this very, like, Elysium feel, like, you know, this like sort of Roman afterlife where the dead go. Like, if anybody remembers the movie Gladiator, they talk about that. Like, if you find yourself riding through golden fields with, like, you know, wheat and everything is lovely, don't worry, everything is fine because you're already dead. Right? That's what this moment for me was when the army of the Rohirrim rides out of the city and heads due west for the fords of Isen, for the river that marks the western boundary. That's where Theoden's son died 2 days ago. That's where the front is. And they're going as fast as they can. They're riding into a sunset and darkness is following them. That night, they don't set fires because even in their own country, they don't know what's going on. They set guards all around and they pass a kind of a sleepless evening. Dawn comes and they get up and they just keep going. And they're riding into this hot, still day. And behind them, out of the east, is like this thunderstorm. A storm in the east is following them. Right? Not very subtle.
Ominous.
Not very subtle. Very ominous. And somebody says to Legolas, Legolas, look at Isengard. What do you see right now? I see some big things moving. I don't know what's going on over there. And it's like darkness is flowing down the hills, down the river towards Isengard. Can't tell you what's going on, but that's it. And they just keep riding. They ride again through the day. And as the sun is setting, blood red. Everything is red. Tolkien does a lot of very intense descriptions of the atmosphere, of the visuals of all this. Like, he's really pulling you out of the world at large and putting you in the seat and in the position that these characters are in, right? Because that's one of the things that, like, this is why this chapter in this book feels different. He's world building, but it's no longer at a distance. We're no longer being given as many huge passages describing how Gondor used to be this amazing kingdom and all these other things that happened. Now we're seeing what these people see as they ride through their own country.
We're experiencing it with them.
Yes, that's exactly it.
We're like wearing VR goggles.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep. Yep.
Remember how much screaming you did when you had VR goggles on? Yeah. So it's just like that because there's going to be a lot of screaming.
Exactly like that.
Because one of the things they see is riding out of the west at them in the last glimmer of this blood red sunset is a lone rider. The army of the Rohirrim stops. King Theoden is there. Éomer is there. Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas. And they're all just waiting for this guy to ride up. And the scouts bring him in, and this dude is ragged. His sword's busted. His shield's busted. He's in kind of a panic. He looks like shit. And he says, guys, it's all bad news. I'm so glad you started coming this way, but it is too late. Everyone at the Fords of Isen is dead. We were broken. We were routed. The battle is lost there. Erkenbrand, the Lord of the Westfold, the Lord of the western part of Rohan, is gone. He's trying to get to Helm's Deep with whoever's left. But it's real bad. Find Éomer. Find the Lord of the Mark and tell him to go back to Edoras and, you know, maybe he can die in his own bed type thing. Like, it's over. The fight's over is what this guy says. And Theoden basically is sitting back a little bit. And so this scout is running his mouth. And then the king steps forward and says, well, that's all good and well, but we came out to fight, so we're gonna fight. And this dude basically, like, craps his pants, but with joy. Because, my God, the king is up. It's the king who has been like this bent winter tree for so long, in Theoden's own words, has risen up. And finally, the Rohirrim are doing something about the war that's been happening in their own backyard.
Yeah.
So this guy's personal little journey was to go from extreme despair, a lack of hope, fresh off a battlefield defeat, to, oh my God, the king is here. Things are going to go great.
I also, by the way, when I was reading this part, I was thinking about Monty Python when Lancelot is coming up.
Yeah.
yeah.
He just keeps running.
And it just keeps cutting to him like being a mile away and then getting closer, and then he's a mile away.
Yeah.
I was just picturing that in my head the whole
Honestly,
time.
that's really funny.
Yeah.
So King Theoden gets this news, and Gandalf hears this news and starts looking around. And Gandalf basically looks at the king and says, go to Helm's Deep. I will see you there. I got to go. And then just takes off on Shadowfax, and he's gone. And a couple people are like, what was that about? And Theoden kind of shrugs his shoulder and goes, yeah, I guess wizard shit. Let's go to Helm's Deep, boys. And so they turn from heading towards the Fords of Isen towards the mountains, because Helm's Deep is a fortress built into a valley in those mountains. So it takes them the rest of the day to get to Helm's Deep. And they're arriving as the darkness begins to set in. What is a Helm's Deep?
Yeah.
What is a helm? What is a deep? These are real questions.
Thank God we have Tat here.
Right.
I have a note that just says Helms Deep. And that was a reminder, all in capital letters, for me to ask you, what the fuck is this thing?
Right. Okay. So Helm's Deep was this fortress built by the kings of Gondor way back in the day when the lords of Gondor gave Rohan to the Rohirrim, to these people, to Errol the Younger's folk. And it is situated in a narrow valley with incredibly steep sides. So the first thing they encounter as they ride up is that the land rises on either side of them and begins to narrow. The first thing that happens is they find out that the orcs have beaten them there. There's wolf riders in the valley just killing folk, because this was a place where people lived. This was a place where all these like bands of like shattered warriors, all these people who survived the battle at the Fords of Isen, who are fleeing to the safety of Helm's Deep, where Erkenbrand is bringing the survivors, the orcs have beaten them there. And they're just killing people in these small groups. They're killing people, everyone they can find. So they drive off these marauders and they continue up the valley. And then they get to the first piece of the defenses. And it's a trench dug across the entire mouth of the valley with a rampart, like an earth wall behind it. And there's only one way in. And it's just kind of a gap. And there's a river and a road that goes through it. And so as they approach, there's a scout who says, oh, thank fucking God you're here. Oh my God, you're here. This is so great. But you absolutely need to hurry the fuck up because the whole world is following you. And behind them are lines and lines of torches. The orcs are marching through the night. The orcs are coming. They are going to finish this fight tonight. Éomer wants to defend the dike, which is what this is called.
The trench and the rampart?
The trench and the rampart. It's called Helm's Dike. Helm's Deep is basically three parts. You have the wall, which is 20 feet tall, stone, smooth, no gate in it. And then on one corner of that, on one side, is the Hornberg, a fortress, a tower, like a series of towers stacked. And that has a causeway that leads up to it, and that is the gate. That is Helm's Gate.
What's a causeway?
Like a big ramp. Beyond that, you have some caverns that have some secret passages in them, which is ominous because they're like, oh, we can get out through the secret passages. Theoden's like, Saruman knows everything about this country. There's nothing that's secret from him. And my brain immediately went to like, oh yeah, so like in 300 where they got they had this great position and then they just got encircled.
Yes.
Yeah. Let that marinate in the back of your brain for the rest of the chapter, right?
I want to rewatch that movie.
Yeah.
Love that
Such
movie.
a good movie.
It's great.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. And the other
All of us.
the other feature is that from these caverns, from the mountain, comes this stream that passes underneath the wall of Helm's Deep. And it's got a little culvert, a little like kind of a super low tunnel for water to run through. And that's the only hole in the wall. As they arrive, old Gambling, this ancient man who is the commander of the defenses, says, yeah, Erkenbrand set us up. We are well provisioned. We got food. We got water. We got like 3/4 of the people in this country hiding back there. Also, not great, but we're all safe here. Also, there's a shitload of guys already here. But now that you're here, we have enough men to defend both the Hornberg, the fortress, and the Long Wall. So we can actually hold this whole place rather than hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And Theoden takes us all in stride and he says, great, get ready for the battle. Also, where's Erkenbrand? And Gambling looks at him and says, he's not with you? And
where's Erkenbrand?
Yeah. Well, so what that means is everyone who's getting in has already gotten there. All the survivors who made it out are already there.
Because they're completely followed by the orc army.
There's not more than 1,000 men in Helms Deep when the army arrives. And even low estimates, by the scouts, put it at like several thousand orcs and men are following them. This is a bad place. It's a bad way to be, but it's a good fortress. It has never fallen to the enemy.
This is a good place to be defending.
Well, the walls are 20 feet tall. So what I want you to imagine is that, because it's not just a wall, right? It's a thick wall with a smooth front, and then there's like a fighting platform on the top, but it's protected on one side. So if you stand on top of the wall, you're basically standing at a 3rd-story window, and you can look down and throw rocks and shoot arrows and do whatever you want to the people down below who have to find some way to climb 2.5 stories up a stone wall at you before they can even think about it.
And on either side is mountains.
Yeah. So it's the entire orc attack has to come from the front.
It kind of reminded me of those Irish round towers we saw in Ireland.
Yeah.
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 Where you need the ladder
Yeah.
to get up.
There's just like one little hole, like the 2nd story up.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, you're like, well, can't get in.
Right. Well, that's just it too. Those things were built as a safe place to run to when, I don't know, like orcs overrun the country.
Yeah.
Like it's the same principle at work, just at scale. And boy, howdy does Gimli like it here. He's like, he's up on top of that wall with Legolas and the two of them are just chilling. He's like, this country's got good bones, good rocks. But you know what? Give me 100 dwarves and a year, and I could turn this into a place that armies would break upon like water. And Legolas is like, yeah, you would like it, but you're a dwarf, and dwarves are weird, man. This is
such a weird thing for him to say too.
Yeah.
right? He's just like, Legolas is clearly very unhappy. And he's like, you know what? I would take 100 archers over 100 dwarves because, the men of the Rohirrim can shoot and all, but like, this is a shooting gallery. And if you have arrows and time, you could do a lot of work. All of a sudden, there's a lot of fucking commotion out beyond the fortress, out beyond the walls. The orcs have reached the dike. And there was a rear guard there, a set of men left to fight and just kind of like keep scouts from getting through. Anyway, they come running the fuck back and they're like, they're here, they're coming, it's beginning, the storm is arriving, let us in. So they open the door and they let them in. And then that storm does arrive. Like the literal storm, along with the metaphor.
Also, can we just acknowledge that you were like the storm was rising and it just fucking thundered?
It was pretty cool.
That was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. That wasn't a sound effect. It really is raining here.
It was pretty rad. So what happens next is like every lightning flash reveals to the people standing on this wall a sea of orcs getting closer and closer with every flash of lightning, and every shield and every helmet is painted with the white hand of Saruman, and they just come closer and closer and closer. And as they approach, the orcs get kind of confused, we'll say, because they're making noise and they're shooting arrows and they're not seeing or hearing anything out of the fortress. There's no one and nothing coming out of Helms Deep at them. There's no one on the walls. There's no arrows. There's nothing. And they get closer and they get closer and they get closer. And then finally, all of a sudden, everyone in the fortress like, surprise, we're actually here. Lights them up with arrows, starts throwing rocks over the walls, and then the battle really starts. And this tide of orcs rises like waves out of the ocean, and they come up, and they get beaten back, and they charge again, and they get a little further, and they get beaten back. And then finally on the third rush, they're at the gates of Helm's Deep, and the battle has really started. The men of Dunland, those wildlings, those humans who are with the orcs at the battle working for Saruman,
Right.
they go like full Braveheart. Like, you know that scene in Braveheart where they sack York and they have a big tree that they use as a battering ram?
Yeah.
Well, these guys brought 2 trees. And they go up this narrow causeway, which is this long ramp that leads up to the gate. And it's a killing ground because it's in the open. There's fighting positions above on the tower and on the wall where you can shoot arrows, you can throw spears, you can throw rocks, and you just rain murder down on everyone trying to get up this causeway. So they've got these big shields held up over their heads, and they've got 2 trees, like 2 whole ass tree trunks held between them. And they're protected from the projectiles coming down from the top of the wall. And they get to the gate and they start ramming. And they're just trying to bash the gate in. And Aragorn looks at Éomer and goes, "That's real fucking bad. We gotta go." And Éomer's like, "Way ahead of you." And they run for this little tiny side gate. And they grab up a bunch of men with them as they go because they're going to go fix this problem. Because this is a huge problem. Because they're just going to knock the gate down. Those shields are keeping those men safe. And they're just doing their work. They're going to smash this gate down sooner rather than later. And then all hell breaks loose. They go out of what's called a postern gate. A little side gate, like a door, like literally a narrow door. It's so you can go out and sneak around the side and get a bunch of your friends together and then surprise the ever-loving god out of the Dunlenders who are ramming down the gate. And Aragorn and Éomer and a bunch of guys hit them from the side as hard as they can. And they're yelling, and Arundel for the west, Arundel for Gondor. Éomer has a sword with a name.
Begins with a G.
Gwythair or something. I'm honestly, I should have paid attention to it, but it's really just less impressive altogether because I know all about Aragorn's fancy sword that he will not let anyone hold. The Dunlenders see this and their shields come down, and now they have to pivot and face this attack from the side. And that's when the rocks and the arrows and the spears all start it's a killing field again because now they're not protected from that. Now they're getting attacked from the side. Now they drop the trees. Everything goes wrong. And Aragorn and Éomer break them there, and they run for it. And Aragorn looks at the door, and the door is fucked. It's breaking. The hinges are bent. Everything is like it's gonna go from bad to worse. And Éomer's like, yeah, especially if we don't get the fuck back inside, like right now. And so they turn to leave. They turn to go in, and a bunch of orcs that have been playing dead stand up, and they lunge at Éomer. And all of a sudden, a little shadow also stands up and yells something in Dwarvish and just takes off a couple of heads. And everyone is like, what the fuck is going on? The orcs are like, what the fuck? And they run back down the ramp. The Éomer and Aragorn are like, okay, but we're out. And then Gimli's like, boop, 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 bopping along.
Gimli's in the shadow, just silhouetted in the moonlight. He's like, hello, fuckers.
Just covered in blood.
It's time. Because he said, Khazad.
Khazad Baraku at Khazad al Manu.
Yeah, Manu, yeah.
The dwarves are upon you. The dwarves of the axes are here.
Yeah.
I'm Gimli and I'm here to kill.
Nice.
And he does. So
cleaving heads.
Oh, yeah, just it's 2 heads straight off. Just 1, 2. It's that fast. Whoop, whoop. Yep. And they get back inside, they get safe, and Éomer's like, wow, Gimli, thanks. But what the fuck? And Gimli's like, you seemed like you were going somewhere fun, so I would come along. And then those guys were way too tall for me, so I thought I would just chill and see how you did. Just gonna watch. Hit by this rock. Good thing for everybody.
Yeah.
And Gimli he's having a hell of a time, and he walks his happy ass back up to the top of the wall, and he says to Legolas, 2. And Legolas looks like, well, that's awesome. That's real good job, buddy. Good job. I don't have any arrows left, so I'm going to say I probably killed about 20 right now.
Who's a good Gimli?
That's all good for you, buddy.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Go get him.
We're going to get ice cream. You think you can get 3? So this is the nature, though. Gimli and Legolas, from this point onward, throughout the battle, have this like head count thing going, super grim, where they're just keeping count of their kills and having a murder measuring contest. And it's this thing that runs throughout the chapter. It's kind of funny. It's about as funny as anything this chapter gets.
Yeah.
It is like a really, really nice reoccurring joke.
It's the only endearing thing about this chapter.
Yeah.
They're really friends now.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing. And I was saying this a minute ago to RJ. That's one of the things that makes the Two Towers so much harder to talk about than the Fellowship. It's not as funny.
Yeah.
It's not as lighthearted. The humor is mostly gallows humor because everything is real. Everything is real bad.
Yeah.
It's dark humor.
We're missing the hobbits, and the hobbits were a tremendous amount of the comic relief of the first book.
Right.
That's a great point.
They're not together. We're 7 chapters in, no sign of Frodo or Sam. So
Anyway, that's how the rest of that night passes. The battle's raging at the gate. Dawn comes. Dawn does not bring joy. Dawn brings grappling hooks and ladders because now the army is assaulting the wall, the long wall, that 20-foot tall sheer. Yeah, it's fucking a storm out there, man.
this is
dude.
crazy,
I don't know if we're going to make it home or not.
that thunder was like 35 seconds long.
Yeah.
Could not be any more perfect.
It started when you were like, I was telling RJ that this book is not as funny.
Yeah. It's not.
We can really imagine the scene of the battle. Yeah.
Dawn is not better. Dawn just means everyone can see each other now. And now they can throw grappling hooks up this wall. Because when you ask yourself, Chris, how do you scale a 20-foot wall with murderers at the top? And the answer is you get a few thousand of your friends and some ladders, and you give it the best shot you can. So they're putting ladders up against the wall, and the Rohirrim are pushing the ladders back down as fast as they can. The orcs are throwing grappling hooks up with ropes attached to climb the wall, and they're cutting those back as fast as they can. But it's not fast enough. Bodies are literally piling at the base of the wall, and the orcs do not stop.
Just makes the ladders taller.
It just makes the ladder, oh my God, slightly better footing.
Each one, it's now only a 13-foot tall.
Oh my God.
No. And so all this is going on at the top of the wall. Remember I said that Helm's Deep is basically 3 parts? We've seen the Hornberg. We've seen the battle at the causeway at the gate, right, with the ram. Now we're talking about the battle on top of the wall. Well, there's also that little sneaky river passage that I told you about. Well, it turns out it is full of sneaky rat bastards because all of a sudden there's yelling on the ground behind the walls. Orcs have crawled up the tunnel.
Because the river goes into Helm's Deep, right?
It comes, it comes out of Helm's Deep.
Oh, it comes out of
Yeah.
so there's, if you are in the walls of Helm's Deep, there's a
stream, like not
like a river, but there's a waterway.
Yeah, it's
where,
good news.
where you get water.
Right, good news, fresh water.
Yeah.
As much as you can drink. Bad news, orcs.
Hole in the wall.
Hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Now, why nobody thought to just put bars there, I don't know.
Helm's derp.
God damn you.
Oh, no.
So orcs have crawled up through this pipe in the bottom of the wall where the river runs out. And they gathered up in the shadow of the wall. And then when they figured there were enough of them to do some harm, they began to do harm. They ran out into the horses and they're making for the caverns where everyone is hiding. And Gimli's like, fuck yeah, round 2. And basically jumps down the wall. He takes one of the little staircases down and just disappears in the night with his axe, like laughing like a lunatic. He's going to have a great time.
He's like the only person in Helm's Deep that runs he just swan dives into the orcs.
Yeah.
Runs toward danger.
Everyone else's life is flashing before their eyes. No one's having a good
He's
time.
like, yeah!
Except Gimli. Except Gimli.
Dude, Gimli's so fucking badass.
Yeah, right? Well, because he says at one point to Aemir, he's like, this is great for me. My axe has had nothing to chop but wood since Moria. So think about that for a second. He's still, I think with good reason, stuck on Moria mentally and emotionally, where orcs had killed his family. Orcs had killed his relations. Orcs had killed what he thought was going to be the new kingdom of the dwarves. And since that moment, he's basically been running from them. Not now. This is a real Rorschach moment for him. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
Yeah.
You're behind the wall now.
I love that.
Yeah, he sees this as a really fun opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's basically just a lot of noise and murder until Gimli stomps back up out of the darkness, back to the top of the wall where Legolas is. And he kind of stretches. He's like, 21. Legolas
you kill all the orcs?
Legolas is like cleaning a knife going, oh, that's real good, man. Yeah, there's some knife work up here. 24.
Oh, man.
Knife problems.
Knife problem.
I did not expect Legolas to be the one that was solving knife problems.
Right? Mm-hmm. That should tell you something about what the situation is.
Yeah.
Well, he's also out of arrows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right? The situation is this. They are all out of arrows. These men who've been fighting, especially who've been riding with the king, have been like doing nothing but riding for like 2 days. They get here at night at the end of a long day and oops, sorry, time to fight for your life.
Oops, all orcs.
Oops, all orcs. Yeah. And the final part of that is that the dawn has not brought them any kind of respite because orcs, they don't like the light. They don't like the sun. Remember that march when Merry and Pippin were like stuck with them? Everyone was freaked out about like, oh, the sun's up. What are we going to do? Only the Uruk-hai were like, fuck you. We fight day or night. We kill in the moon, the stars, and the sun. We do this work. We are the fighting Uruk-hai. Unfortunately, that's who's here. It's the fighting Uruk-hai. So
They're terrifying sounding.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Like, legitimately.
Like,
I don't like this.
like it gets better. I mean, worse, but also better.
Like, I keep thinking there's orcs, and then I'm like, oh, wait, no, these are from Isengard. So these are, and it's probably a mixture, but like these Uruk-hai are like fucking monsters.
Yeah, they're like professional murderers.
It's like
Orcs
NFL
2.0.
players.
Yeah.
What?
There's like NFL, like there's regular people, and then there's like NFL players
That's a
that
good
are
way to
just
think
like
about this.
running at, and you're like, this is insanity.
Right, like
It's a refrigerator running at me.
right, it's like a soccer team facing a football team.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
The good news was that 20-foot wall was there. The bad news is that after the attack that Gimli fixed, Gimli also fixed the hole in the bottom of the wall by basically just telling him how to fill it with rocks. So good. Problem solved. No one else is getting in. Saruman has had a different surprise in store for everyone. And he's saved it for this very moment because suddenly there's an explosion. And there's a huge hole in the wall now. And it is helpfully pointed out that Saruman has discovered some kind of blasting powder. He packed that shit with TNT and lit the fuse. Those orcs just blew the wall up. They packed that shit full of TNT, they lit the fuse, and they blew the wall apart. They no longer have to go over it. They could never go around it. Now they're just going to go through. That explosion means the final phase of the battle has begun. Now, everyone who was on the wall is doing one of two things. They are fighting a retreat back to the Hornberg, back to the fortress, back to the tower for safety, or they are desperately trying to cut their way through the sea of orcs to get to safety.
Or shitting their pants.
Or actually also, there are the caverns. Some people are moving towards the caverns also, but if you're not in the caverns group and you're not in the tower group, you are fucked. A lot of people are going to get cut off and killed. And Aragorn is basically standing at the bottom of the steps for the inside door to the fortress, right? The one that leads to the Hornberg, the one that leads to safety right now. And he is just holding that for whoever can make it. And boy, is it not a lot of people. It ain't great. And the orcs get real close, and Legolas has saved his last arrow for the orcs that get closest, shoots one through the throat. Aragorn turns to run for the door. The orcs are following him. He slips. He barely gets in, slams the door, and he looks around, covered in sweat, and he goes, whew, it's bad out there. I mean, the actual quote is, friends, it goes ill, but like, it's really fucking funny.
Friends, it goes ill.
And Legolas is like, what friends? Where's Gimli?
Yeah.
And it's another one of those, he's not with you moments.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And it turns out that Gimli didn't make it in. Éomer didn't make it in. Gamling didn't make it in. Maybe they made it for the caves. Somebody says they saw them fighting in that direction, but We don't know.
Yeah.
What we do know now is that everyone is trapped. Everyone who's still alive is trapped, either in the caves, which is, kind of defensible. It's a good spot to be trapped. A better spot is in the Hornberg because that's an actual fortress. But everyone is in one of those two places. Everyone else is dead. If you didn't make it into one of those two spots, you're done. And that's when Theoden comes stomping in and is like, all right, what's the situation? And Aragorn tells him straight. And he goes, this fucking sucks. I would much rather have ridden to my death rather than be trapped like a rat in a bag. Gandalf's advice sounded a lot better about 12 hours ago. And Aragorn, in all seriousness, says to him, Theoden, king, do not judge the advice of Gandalf until the very end. And Theoden looks him in the eyes and says, how long do you think that's going to be? Because in his mind, Theoden has already given up this, Theoden's on a suicide mission, essentially. He's got a literal death wish. He wants to go out swinging. So he looks at Aragorn and he says, new plan. At dawn, everyone who can fight is going out that door. And we are going to carve our way out. Or we're going to make a hell of a story. Either way, are you in? And Aragorn says, yes. I guess that's the only plan that's viable. A plan is better than no plan.
I didn't love that.
Nope. Also, nobody asked Legolas' opinion. Yeah. So they're coming up on the second dawn of the battle, right? The plan is bad. And Aragorn takes a minute to walk up out onto the parapet, out onto the outer defenses of the tower, so he can look over and down and see the dawn. And he holds up his hand, outwards to the orcs. And the orcs show a surprising amount of etiquette because apparently they also know the pirate code and that's a parlay. We're going to talk now.
I love this moment.
Right?
It was funny.
It implies a lot about the kinds of training that Saruman thought was important for orcs.
Aragorn turned into Keira Knightley.
Oh my God, Pirates of the Caribbean, yes.
Parlay.
Well, I mean, Orlando Bloom still skulking around somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Aragorn is there. He's the only one up there. And he's standing out looking at this sea of orcs. And they're mocking him. They're like, come down and talk. If you want to talk, come down here. Bring your king. Or don't bring him. We'll come in and get him. But either way, we're going to get him. And Aragorn says, no, really, I just came out to see the sunrise. But also, you're all dead. You're all doomed. No one has ever taken this fortress. None. And it won't be you. No one is ever going to know what happened to you if you stay here. No one is going to hear of it. We're going to turn you into a pile of bones. Your story ends here. So leave now or die. And the orcs are like, cool story, bro. We're built different.
I would have laughed at him too.
Right? We are the fighting Uruk-hai. We fight and we die and we kill by moon, by sun, by stars. We kill. And we're going to kill everyone in that fucking place. And yeah, the orcs are laughing, but the wildlings, the men of Dunland, they're looking around going, I don't know about this. Did we make a bad choice?
Are we on the wrong team?
Oh, we're the baddies.
And I love how Aragorn is described because he stands up and reaches his full kingly stature.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of are taken aback. They're like, oh my God, he's a king of men.
Yeah.
Maybe we fucked up.
Yeah.
He's the person they don't think it will ever come or exists.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was such a cool moment in the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also really funny too because they're like, that's not a parlay.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, no, I just wanted to see the sunrise before I slaughter every single one of you.
I'm here for the view.
That's such a power move when there's just you're kind of outgunned and stuck trapped in the corner. And instead of being afraid, you just go, I guess you're all going to have to die because I'm going to leave.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you're crazy right now. You got some crazy eyes.
Yeah. And so Aragorn throws the crazy eyes and it's just about working when the place he's standing basically explodes. because he's standing above the gate, and the orcs have smashed the gate down, and the men of the Rohirrim, the guys, the defenders, have just piled furniture, wood, rocks, garbage, body, whatever they can find, they've piled it up in the gateway, and they've been fighting over this heap all night. The orcs are clearly like not out of gunpowder. They're not out of TNT, because at this moment they blow that all the fuck up. And Aragorn had been standing there a moment ago when the archway he was standing above collapsed in. And, good for him that he got out while the getting was good. And so he ducks back into the tower. And the orcs are gearing themselves up for this charge, because the orcs are still ready. The orcs are in this. This is it. This is the moment where they end this whole bullshit. And the light of the dawn has revealed a lot of things. And there's this wailing despair going through the army behind the orcs on the front line. And they're looking around and they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. That is not the sound that fighting Uruk-hai make. That is not the way this is supposed to go. We're about to win. What the fuck just happened? And the wildlings and the men of Dunland and everybody else who's like, maybe I'm on the wrong side, are thinking like, maybe I'm really on the wrong side. Maybe fuck me running. This is not a great spot to be. And so they're looking around and they are contemplating, again, all the decisions that brought them to this moment and regretting every single one of them. Because at that moment, the world goes fucking haywire. Because this fortress is called the Hornberg. Berg is an old word that means fortress town or fortified place. And horn means horn. Because one of the features of the Hornberg is a huge horn. And it just starts blowing and it's echoing off the walls. And more horns. And it's just noise and confusion. And everyone is upset. And by everyone, I mean all the orcs and the Dunlendings and the wildmen. They're having a real bad fucking time. This was their moment of triumph. Now they have no idea what's happening. Their world is about to turn upside down. And then it immediately does, because Theoden and all of his men come streaming out of the fortress at them. Out of that hole the orcs just blasted.
Go.
And they come out and they are screaming, Theoden King, for Helm, for the Rohirrim, death, death, death. Like they are coming to kill. And they hit like a hammer. And they smash into the orcs. They smash into these hillmen. And they drive them before them. They're running. They are fleeing. All of the men who are trapped in the caverns come out from that direction too. They're charging out. Everyone's in motion. Everyone who's still alive, everyone who can still fight is now chasing orcs because it's turned into a rout. The orcs are running for their lives back down the causeway, back before the walls, all the way back to the dike. It's about a quarter of a mile between the walls and that dike, that trench and that first wall. And it is blanketed with, they cover it in corpses. The men of the Rohirrim have arrived. They are writing their story. It's written in blood. And they follow them all the way out to the dike. And they stop. And the orcs and the men that survived and made it through that gate and made it out into the area beyond the dike, out onto like the coombe, out into where the valley starts to widen. Coombe. Out into this area where the valley is supposed to widen out. They're milling and they are trapped in terror. They are trapped in terror of the king of Theoden. They're trapped in terror of the trees. They are trapped on one hand by the dike and the Rohirrim behind it. On one side by a cliff face. On another side by a long slope. And then the mouth of the valley has filled with a forest. Trees. Endless trees. Rank upon rank of ancient trees standing where yesterday, where they walked through hours ago, was nothing but open fields. And there's nothing under those trees except threat and shadow and darkness. And the orcs have no idea what the fuck is happening. None. And at this moment, that third side to this kill box fills with men. It's Gandalf and Erkenbrand and all the survivors of the Battle of the Fort of Ice and another 1,000 men come pouring down this hillside at the orcs, screaming murder. And the orcs break and run. Gandalf, at the head of this column, Tolkien writes, fills them with fear and madness, and they just run. They run in the only direction they can, into the trees. And nothing ever makes it out of that forest. And that's how the chapter ends.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Oh my God. This chapter, it's so intense. It's so dramatic. And right now we're talking about it in the most intense, dramatic scenario possible because outside this window, a full-blown hurricane is happening.
Yeah. There's actually a tornado watch near here.
Yeah.
Oh my
the
gosh.
The entire
Jesus
time
Christ.
Pat did the summary,
It's been thundering.
thunder
like
out. And I'm
crazy.
like, this is like, we're in Helms Deep. Fuck, this is it.
We're getting a lot of phone notifications about how we might lose power.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I didn't even see the storm coming.
We did. It followed us here.
It did, yeah. We could see it like in the rearview mirror the whole time we were
Oh,
driving.
God.
It was cool.
That's not ominous.
I know.
I was excited.
Pretty dope.
Sorry, it did follow us.
So it's a
brought
perfect. It's a perfect setup to recording a drunken podcast about a battle.
Yeah.
Where the sky is turning dark and following, and the evil following. You know.
Yeah. Except that they don't have to then get back in the car and drive through it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very
like
true.
technically they did though. They got back on their horses and they rode through it
Yeah.
with swords out.
Yeah. Swords out.
So I know that we were chatting, and there's a lot to talk about with this chapter, but I have to be honest up front. When you talked about there were a bunch of trees in an area where there weren't trees,
At the end of the chapter.
that was the first time I heard that. I missed that completely. I have no notes of that. I don't remember reading that. I listened to. I don't have no. That didn't happen to me.
What did you think the shadow was that the orcs went into and didn't go out of? Just a shadow?
Yeah.
So Chris was on Craigslist at the end of this chapter as well.
Apparently.
As you guys know, I question everything about this book.
Yeah.
Didn't question it.
Didn't make an
Not
impression.
once. I went, don't go in the shadow, guys. That's bad. I didn't even make that connection that the landscape had changed. So are these trees like walking trees, or did they like magically grow? Like
What do you think they are out of the world we know so far in this story?
Well, they're
Shade.
Yikes.
I'm just teasing you.
I can't wait till we have
what
to
we do.
go home later and I can lie silently in bed while you talk to me and not talk back.
Shade, shadow. It's a theme. It's a theme.
Yeah. So honestly,
Christopher, you
it's,
think. No, just kidding.
use your fucking head.
They literally burned everything in their way 12 hours ago. And now there's a forest there.
Yeah. So these are not like, they're not walking
Are Mary and
trees.
Pippin in there?
Presumably?
Don't know. Can't say.
They're taking the hobbits
But
to Isengard.
the thing is though, is like these did not like, the impression is not that suddenly they grew out of nothing or that they're moving even. They just are there. They are just there.
My guess was that when Gandalf went off on his errand, I guess he went to go find Erkenbrand and maybe on the way intercepted the Ents on their way to Isengard and said, hey, no, we need you back this way.
But if he would have, he
Interesting.
would have met Mary and Pippin.
I mean, they could be somewhere like in the middle of the forest.
They're
and
3
he just
feet
never
tall,
would have
so-
seen them.
We don't know.
And also, Gandalf only shows up in like the last 2 paragraphs of the chapter. He doesn't even speak.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
again, we just see the end of this army, the end of the army of Isengard through the orcs' eyes, basically.
I know all of this is going to be answered next chapter. That's what's so annoying about
I
this
know.
podcast. It's because you guys don't ever answer any questions, which I'm so thankful for because I don't want any spoilers, but I
very
want
hard
to know
sometimes.
why so badly.
Yeah.
I want the answer, but don't tell me.
It's a good story.
Well, I'm glad you know now that there was a magical forest or whatever it was.
So in the
that appeared.
beginning, that was not Saruman sending, like a misty shadow down the mountain.
Oh, so the shadow that Legolas sees.
Yes.
So that's a different thing.
That's a different thing. That's not Gandalf. That wasn't the trees.
No.
Oh
The
my
shadow
God.
in the beginning.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. The beginning of
Right,
this chapter
yeah, it's
is
confusing.
confusing.
It was confusing. I agree. The other thing I found very confusing was literally everything about this chapter. I I had such a hard time like visualizing the map that he was describing, partially because it was a little vague and partially because I kept having to look up words and be like, what does this mean?
I looked up a lot of words while we listened as well.
What's a coombe?
What's a coombe?
What's a coombe?
Coomb. Who's heard that word before?
What's a dyke? They used the word gore again.
They did.
They did.
I thought of you, Chris.
Yeah.
No, I'm
The
glad you
gore.
said that, Laura, because I also had a really hard time visualizing it or keeping track of where they were. Because I'm one of those people where sometimes when I'm reading, like someone will do a description. And it'll be like, for example, like he looked at her with it, like she looked at him with her head down and her eyelids, like whatever. And I try to recreate it and I just look like a monster. I never can figure out like the descriptions of looks or like sometimes a sound. Or for this, it was the geography. Because I was like, at one point I had to stand up and visualize like they're coming this way. They're here.
Right?
The old man and the children in the back. But wait, I'm on the wrong page. I'm on the wrong side.
Where's
I kept
this
like
freaking
spinning
tower?
around. I didn't know where they were at any given moment.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one because I was like starting to cheat and just look up maps on my phone because I was like, what are they talking about?
When they said orcs were coming from this way or that way, I'm like,
Well, I had such a funny moment with that because at its most elementary level, I also felt that way of like they were like, oh, the fortress of the valley. And in my head I went, what's a valley again? It's like I know it's a valley. It's the valley. Everybody, I know what a valley is. The valley. But what's a valley again?
In this context, what's a valley?
Is a valley just like a big open area, or is a valley not a big open area? And then I was all of a sudden I like came back to, and there was like 4 sentences later, and I was like, oh shit, what did I miss? You know, apparently trees, but
I can't tell if it's because the first time I experienced this chapter, I did listen to it. I wasn't reading along. I was on a 3-hour road trip, and I just put it on in the car because I was really running out of time. And
You're smoking doobies.
oh, totally, yeah, on my way to work.
Am I the only one who read the chapter with my eyeballs?
I did read it later with
did
my
too.
eyeballs.
No, I get to do all the talking now.
But yeah, like if you're listening to this and you zone out for like 2 seconds to like check your blind spot or merge onto a highway, you
It's
miss a lot.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really funny, RJ, that you were like, I pay attention to faces and expressions and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, geography. It's 300 yards west. Why did he tell me that? I'll know later. But I got to drill that down. And like, I think I've just read too many like historical fictions.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you're going to read about the Battle of Gettysburg, and they're going to tell you that, you know, there's a little round top and 200 meters north is this thing, and then to the west of that is this thing, but this was their orientation. And then
That is my bane.
I love
Oh
that
yeah,
shit.
I hate
live
that.
for it.
I hate
That
it
is my bane.
so
Live
much.
for it.
It's legitimately the thing I hate most about story time is unnecessary details.
Wow, I got bad news.
I'm not the character. Those are details relevant for the characters, not for the reader.
I do think they're important, but I have to say my memory and like what I care about more is like the spines of the characters, their emotional life,
Same.
what's driving the story. So then like the stuff that's important to maybe figuring out the plot or like figuring out with the heroes what they should do. Sometimes I do have to go back and reread it because I don't really care as much about a place, especially when like I feel like usually Tolkien is so descriptive with the geography and the landscape. And so the whole time in this chapter, I couldn't visualize Helms Deep or Hornberg at all. I was like, all right, here's the wall. Here's the parapet, here's this. And I was like, wait a minute, I'd have it backwards. So an orc attack would happen. I'm like, what? How did that happen? They're so far away. I'm like, no, they're not. I have it backwards.
It's almost like he gave you that information a little too early for it to be relevant. And you're like, okay, well, I didn't memorize that. So like, describe it again for me.
Especially with the dark shadow following them and like the foreboding and everyone talking about, we're probably coming to our suicide mission here. The stress level, I wasn't really thinking about the building floor plan. I was thinking about everyone probably writing into their doom.
Yeah.
And then I was really blindsided.
Did you look up Helms Deep online? I did too.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did because it really helped me understand.
It changed my understanding of the chapter.
Like I
Because
only
he
know
didn't do a good job describing it.
I only know Helms Deep from seeing it in the film.
I don't even remember that much.
And I only remember it just being like big walls.
Big
I
wall.
don't really remember it being
wall.
attached. Yeah, big wall. I don't really remember like the outside of Helm's Deep, what that looked like.
I only remember what we just saw like 2 months ago in War of the Rohirrim.
Yeah. And so honestly, looking up like there's there's some really, really fun, creative, like hand-drawn. They look like an architect's doing them, you know?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that shit's amazing. I live for that shit.
And I was like, oh, this makes sense. Because I was like, what the fuck is a coombe? Where's the valley? Where's the dike? Where's the this? There was a bunch of these terms being thrown around.
Yeah.
And this might piss off your reading friends, but as a first-time Lord of the Rings reader, I encourage you, if you're listening to this and you're struggling with, just fucking look it up, man. Just look up the picture.
Oh, no, absolutely.
That doesn't upset me at all.
Yeah. Like, you know, it's supposed to be enough based on the writing on the
Somebody
pages.
else has already done this work.
But
There's no reason to struggle through it yourself.
Well, so this is one of those things that definitely you benefit on multiple reads, right? Because if you could eliminate all of that confusion and all that wonder, and then you could just kind of really immerse yourself in the action beats of the chapter, it is fucking flying.
yeah, it moves almost too fast for me.
When you know the beats of the chapter, when you know the path of this chapter, you can zero in on stuff like the way the sunsets are portrayed, the way the sunrises impact stuff, the discussion, the very brief asides, all of the tension, all that thickness, it is built in a few words. Because in this moment, Tolkien has kind of eschewed his normal writing style of like, you have a whole shitload of background and time. We're going to slow boil this one. No, you are in the fire now.
Yep.
It is fast. It is happening. And this is one of those like textual changes that is going to continue as the book goes on.
But on one hand, I did appreciate the madness of it. It was one of the most realistic, and I've never been in a battle, thank God. But, you know,
You do okay.
I felt like I kind of, for the first time, experienced the chaos and the just that comes at you from all sides. There's no order.
You've played paintball.
I have.
And that is a little bit the same.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, I hear things happening and I don't know where
And you're
they
just
are and
reactive
where
almost.
I am.
You come in with a plan, but the plan
scary.
goes away when someone's running towards you. You're just
The brassiness that you had
It's scary.
playing paintball blew my brain.
well, I was down to the last person on my team against 7 guys. I was like, well, I'm going out, but I'm not going to go out sitting. I'm going to take
Theoden.
down as many people as I can.
Yeah, this is it. This explains the death wish.
I guess it does.
Dude,
I understood him in that moment. I was like, I've been there.
That suicide ride blew my mind. And also the fact that it worked also blew my mind. It didn't seem like it had a chance in hell of working. Like, I don't know how many lords of Edoras were there with him, but it didn't feel like that many. And so he's like, all right, it's going to be the king. It's going to be Aragorn, couple of lords. We're going to just go out and die because there's 3,000 orcs out here. And somehow it worked.
I don't know why, but when I think about the Lords of Edoras, I picture the Muppet, the chef Muppet,
Oh my God.
and just a bunch of them with swords going, just running out. That's what popped in my head as soon as you said that. I don't know why.
I don't know why, but I love it.
I don't know.
Why would you have a Muppet Lord of the Rings?
Ride with me at dawn.
God. But I love that you brought that up, Laura, because he actually has that really sad quote that says, the world changes and all that once was strong now proves unsure, talking about...
That's Theoden, right?
Yeah, that's Theoden talking about, you know, what's it called?
He's like talking about himself.
Hornberg. He's talking about Hornberg, but really himself as well. And so when he made this choice to follow Gandalf's advice, he thought that the stronghold was still strong, and he didn't realize how bad Isengard had gotten. And so in that moment, he's saying that because he's like, I led us to our demise. That we are all going to die here.
Second thoughts.
And he really regretted it. And even though Aragorn was like, don't, you know, doubt Gandalf now, he always has a reason for the things he hit for his counsel. And Theoden's kind of like, I don't know, but I'm not going to sit here like a waiting duck to get killed. I'm going to ride out and die in glory on the horseback. I'm not just going to sit. And that really resonated with me from that paintball experience. I'm like, yeah. In that moment, it's like I could have sat there and like surrendered or like gotten hit in the back, but I was like, nah, I'm going to run these people down.
It just felt like he was just going to ride out and just like 4,000 orcs just immediately get chopped down.
Yeah.
I was like, this is such a bad plan. Please don't.
But here's the thing to remember, because I was thinking about this. It's the same exact thing. The same exact thing. I was sitting there going, this is a bullshit plan. But it's not 100 versus 4,000. It's 100 versus the 12 they're
That
hitting
are
at a
up
time.
front.
And that 12 compounds into the next 12 or 15 or whatever. So like I was thinking the same thing. Like, oh, it's a verse versus like a fucking football field of them. But no one behind the front like 12-foot radius matters. Unless they're archers, obviously, and then they really matter. But like when they're just riding into it, they're just hitting you, next person, hitting you, next person, hitting you, and just moving through. And that kind of makes sense to me when I think of it that way.
So it's a really interesting historical parallel because cavalry charges like head on, like at an attack, have the best impact when the enemy tries to run. Because you're a guy or an orc or whatever, and you're standing there and you're watching a shitload of dudes on horses ride directly at you personally. And you know the same math that they do. It's not them versus 1,000. It's me versus them right now.
Right.
And then it'll be the guy behind me versus them. Do I really want to get got for what reason? I'm out. And then when someone starts running, everyone starts running. And then it's just like polo, but with watermelons and heads.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I started off that same thought going like, this is fucking insanity, Theoden. What are you doing? To being like, if they can make it scary enough, that first group sort of gets demolished, everyone's going to be like, fuck this. And they're going to turn around. And then, yeah, you're just golfing.
Yeah.
Everything is going against them while they're in that space, while they're on the defensive. And maybe this is the lesson to take as the reader. While they're on the defensive, they're losing. When they go on the offensive, the forces of good start winning battles.
One of my favorite parts about this chapter was just the overall atmosphere during the battle.
It was so dark.
Yeah, it's a battle that happens predominantly at night. So they walk us through like a whole day under siege, but it gets summed up in a couple of paragraphs, and it basically ends with, and everyone was tired and out of arrows, and the orcs were not out of fucks. They were digging deep and coming hard. And everything interesting happens in darkness or at the end of darkness. Like at the dawn, at the sunset. The original scout comes up at sunset. They arrive at Helms Deep at sunset. The orcs come upon them in the night. Like it's all very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that made me think of two things. One, I loved the atmosphere it created when the lightning bolts were illuminating, as you said, the sea of orcs. And like they didn't know how much trouble they were in until this storm started, and they could suddenly see just miles upon miles of orc heads and horrible little bodies. That was great. It was really cool that they kept talking about how the dawn was going to change everything. And I just really hope it gets light soon. I'm so tired of this night. Everything will change in the dawn. And it did. It was like the orcs obviously they're creatures of the night. They're strongest in the night, but men are stronger in the light, which is cool.
Aragorn has that great line. It's something like, dawn is the hope of men.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's something we talked about a million years ago,
Yeah,
right?
it keeps coming up.
Because like the other major races in Tolkien's world are kind of like, they have an affinity for night and for star. Like even the elves like the moon and the stars. And the orcs revile the sunlight. And that leaves the sun for men.
Yeah.
And happy little hobbits.
And happy little hobbits. But that's just because they have proper sensibility.
True.
Obviously.
Let's talk about some of the characters here. We have some interesting insight into Aragorn, Gimli, our core fellowship people
Are dead.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
Aragorn,
dead to us.
Legolas, and Gimli have such an interesting evolution of character in this. This is a lot happens for each one of them. We get a bit more insight into the true nature of Legolas and how he feels about Gimli. We get to see Gimli turn into a rabid Wolverine. And Aragorn becomes the literal king and master slayer fucking killing machine he was born to be. And
The king that was promised.
and so this is different because he's been protecting and fleeing all of the other times we've been in battle.
Yeah.
Now he is, it's like, it's different. It's like war as opposed to like, I got to kill these motherfuckers that are on the trail in the woods that we're trying to run through.
Right.
Which feels a little different.
He is on the offensive.
And he's got like badass armor. He's like in army mode, you know.
That sword.
He's got the sword. The
Is
sword
this
is
the first time
on
Anduril
fire.
got to
No.
fight? No.
No, but it is the first time.
When the breaking of the fellowship happens, Anduril catches fire during that.
Okay.
And that's the first time, I think.
Well, Gandalf makes it catch on fire when you're gonna murk Gandalf when he shows up and they think he's Saruman.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
it
so
also
funny.
catches on fire. Yeah,
Murk
Yeah,
Gandalf.
yeah.
They're gonna murk Gandalf.
Oh, maybe that's
my
the first time. Is that the first
yeah,
time?
that's the first time.
So that's the first time.
But
yeah.
that doesn't strike me as good fire.
Yeah.
It's just the sword is on. It's like Gimli's axe flies out of his hand. Legolas and shoots straight up in the air. Aragorn's sword catches on fire, and it's like it doesn't state necessarily that that's a bad thing, just that it stops him from doing anything. It's like
It also feels like it has that little little diamond button that kids' toys have. That when you push it, it goes shing.
Oh my God.
yeah.
And so I think he just like they were running up the parapet, and he was like shing. And like, it caught on fire, and he was like, "Let's go, baby!" And so I think that of our core, fellowship characters here, obviously Gandalf shows up in the end, but he kind of pisses the fuck off for almost the entire chapter at the very unopportune time. But Gimli has such a fun arc as a character in this.
Gimli shows up for murder.
He shows
Yeah,
up for murder,
Gimli
but
is
he
ready
walks
to
away with
fight.
laughs. He becomes a good comic relief in this, you know?
I have a question. Has Gimli ever killed a man before?
Yes.
Like hanging out in
Oh, wait, a man?
Wherever
Do you mean like a man?
well, no, like killed before.
Gimli's a warrior.
Short of the journey they've been on. Like who has he killed before?
Prior to the journey for the ring.
Yeah.
I believe that he has killed orcs. He's
Like-
defended
Okay.
his
The Lonely Mountain.
mountain or something.
Like most dwarves, Gimli has a long list of people that need to die. He makes it as short as possible.
By finishing it.
No, Gimli is an accomplished person by the
Okay.
time we meet him.
Okay.
I also thought about that too because he has that line where he's like, my axe hasn't been able to like fucking chop anything except wood. since
Yeah,
Moria."
yeah.
And that made me think that he's like, like when he's killing them, like where he like pops a beer and chillaxes because he's
His thirst for blood has been quenched.
like quite literally the joke of that being like he's got a thirst for blood's getting quenched, like 100%.
Do you guys remember in the opening part of the chapter when they arrive at Helm's Deep and it's him and Legolas up on the wall having their quick
Yes.
back and forth? And Gimli's like, I am so tired. I did not think any dwarf could ever be as tired as I am. I should go to sleep. But I would wake up for some murder. I still got that in me. We can
he
do
did
that.
say that.
But I'll take
Yeah.
a nap if a nap is available.
I guess that just made me wonder like what his background is, who he's been killing and why.
So think back real quick. Gimli's dad was Glowin. One of the dwarves who went on the adventure to go kill like the last and greatest dragon in Middle Earth.
Sure.
When that's your dad, you probably have had a weird childhood.
Yeah.
I suppose. But
Yeah.
like were they out hunting or were they like defending their kingdom or whatever?
Hunting.
We've got
who?
Gimli on the line to talk to him about this.
Yo,
But we think about dwarves, they live underground.
Yeah.
And so we've learned that a lot of creepy, crawly, bad things love the dark.
Yeah.
So they probably are just raised that they have to go out and protect their
Also,
home.
he grew up swinging something in his hand as with the fire of the gods into something that is seemingly unbreakable to make it break. The physical move of swinging an axe, like
I really thought you were going to make a dick joke.
no, whether it's the mountain he's hitting with everything he's got, or it's 1,000 orc bodies in front of him. He is swinging, and he feels good swinging.
Yeah, he's into it.
That's what I think. So I really appreciate the fact that Gimli sort of had this moment of like his comedic interactions with Legolas had to glow up. And they had this sort of like fun duel that we just kept revisiting, like a running joke through the whole chapter. I love that.
Yeah.
It really like was heartwarming when it felt like dark and dreary and like, oh my God, this is like so crazy of a chapter. Everybody's dying, everybody's dead, and then all of a sudden he'd be like, another one.
25.
Like, great. Like, this is so fun. I like that.
Well, you made a point of the final moment of that, right? Because I skipped that in the summary.
Yeah.
When we get to a final count for Legolas,
And that's when Gimli does not make it inside
the Hornberg.
the Hornberg, and they kind of shut the doors, and Legolas is like, or not Legolas, somebody says Gambling and Éomer and the dwarf were like seen out there battling. They didn't make it in.
Yeah.
And Legolas is like, are you kidding me? Like, Gimli didn't make it inside? And I was like, oh, man. And Legolas goes, I was really hoping I could rub it in his face that I have 39 kills. And I was like, you fucking asshole.
That's his love language, though. He does
true.
care. That's how he
It's true.
shows he cares.
It's how they connect. It's how
Yeah.
they bond.
Yeah, it's so great.
Well, but the response that Aragorn gives him is like, yeah, well, you know what? I don't think that's going to be a problem for him if he survives all the way to the caverns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to outnumber you.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
says it's so funny. He's like, how does he say? He's like, I have no doubt that Gimli will find a way into the mountain. Like,
Right.
Just washed in
He will
blood.
make a way.
he's fighting on like a mountain. He'll just like burrow into it like a fucking,
Like a
animal.
Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, just like he'll
a
be
badger.
fine, dude. Of anybody here, that's the person I'm least concerned about that will find a way into a mountain.
That's very true.
He's going to pretend to be a rock until something murderable comes by.
Yeah, exactly. Uses his beard like rope and swings from the valley peaks and shit.
He's going to cover himself in his cloak of elvenkind, and he's going to sit next to a rock, and he's just going to like compose poetry for Galadriel until one orc walks by, and then is
Nuts. My God.
Cut him off at the ankles.
oh my god,
So are we going to talk about this fucking
screaming.
There was a slur that was used.
Oh, God.
Is this where we're going?
Is this when he calls him the Welsh?
There was a racial slur used in this chapter. Do you guys want to talk about it?
Are we talking about when Éomer says like, yeah, I can't understand what the men of Dunland say. It sounds like squawking birds and bullshit.
No.
Oh, okay.
But that's great.
No, because that's racist
feels
too.
like somebody
That's why
said,
classist.
that feels like somebody said cracker.
Right.
And you're kind of like, that's okay. I get where you're coming from with that. More so, I was specifically talking about when the hill folk make fun of the Rohirrim men and call them straw heads.
You know, I didn't think about that until now, and it's because their hair is yellow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, why did they hate them so much?
What we are like slowly like dripped into the story is how the Rohirrim got to where they are, right? Errol the Younger comes out of the north and he's awarded Rohan by the Lords of Gondor. Remember?
Okay.
The Lords of Gondor built Helm's Deep before the Rohirrim ever got there.
So he was granted land that never belonged to him.
Well, it belonged to him once he killed most of the people who lived there.
Problematic, but sure.
Right. And those were the men of Dunland, the wildlings. Those
So
are
they were the conquered.
They are the indigenous people that the Rohirrim murdered when they were granted the right to own this land by Gondor, which is why I said earlier, kind of like the Welsh.
Oh.
They didn't even
Context is
get a
important.
casino or anything.
Bullshit.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
But this is
that
really-
actually clears things up a lot.
Right. And it's just like, it's this cool thing where also it explains why they would be working with orcs.
Yeah.
Because honestly, at a certain point, you're just like, anybody who gives me a weapon, I will take.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The enemy of my enemy is, well, that's not
They
it.
walked
The
in and
enemy
they
of my
said,
enemy is Saruman and this weird orc.
Yeah, they walked
Yeah.
in and they were like, we'll kill you, or you fight with us and kill the people that killed you.
Yeah.
If I was them, I'd be like, Okay.
That's not much of a choice.
Sounds good. I don't want to die.
Right.
I'll fight the people that I hate already.
And they were hoping that they would all be killed. And so
Yeah.
then the wildlings would take back Helm's Deep.
That
Exactly.
makes so much sense. Why they would join up with the orcs.
Yeah, they just want their homeland.
Okay. That adds so much context that somehow it just went phew, right over my head.
You know, it's like also wild when Gandalf shows up in the end and he's like, I have a tree.
Our whole forest. He really
Did he say that?
No.
I thought that's what I read.
I mean, you also missed the trees, so.
Well,
Maybe he said I have a
as
tree.
the white rider of this group. So, do you have a tree?
I sure do. Let's
Oh
see.
my God, you said tree.
There's a tree.
I heard tree also. I have a tree. And I'm like, Chris, I don't think that's
better
true.
with a tree, too. That's so funny. Oh, my God.
Oh, yo, guys, I have a little bit of insight to the treat. Get fucking ready.
I'm ready.
I need this table to be clear.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
And also,
Done.
we have to be very careful not to move it at all.
Also, I was such a dork. I was like, I didn't think Gandalf spoke the end of the chapter. So I just had to go back to the book. I was like, he didn't open his mouth. He
Flipping
just
through
filled it with
pages.
madness and fear.
time. It's tree time. The fuck is going on?
So, you know how I said I was really disappointed at the lack of a map?
Yeah.
I decided to make one
You made your own.
on a charcuterie board.
This is insane. First of all, do you guys just own a 3-foot long charcuterie board?
My mother brought it to our last party. I think it was our anniversary party.
Oh my
she
God.
made an entire charcuterie board and that took up this whole thing. So it was
wow.
massive. Yeah.
This is awesome. I am so into this.
This is the Helms Deep charcuterie board. I couldn't come up with a better title for it.
All right, talk us through this.
All right.
What do we got?
We have got the mountains are made of bread. So I've cut up a loaf of Italian bread into little crags.
Nice.
And turned them into the mountains that create Helm's
Crag.
Deep. The Astro Crag. Aggro Crag.
Aggro crag.
Yeah. All right. So our Helm's Gate, the wall, is made out of different cheeses with some little, I don't know, what are these, breadsticks in the middle? Okay. Oh, what's this tower called again?
The Hornberg.
The Hornberg is an extremely phallic salami
It looks like a summer sausage.
This looks like a dildo.
sticking out of a piece of bread.
Oh my God.
You know what?
'Cause the
God
bread
bless
is
you
the
if you try
rock,
for that one.
right?
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Are the nuts representing the men? And are the olives and the raisins the wildlings and the orcs?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
What's with these two
So
nuts next to this?
We've got these. We've got these salty
Theoden.
olives and shriveled raisins to be the enemy, the
Okay.
orcs and the men. Our Helm's Dyke, the trench and the wall is some prosciutto.
Ooh.
All right. All of our men and our heroes are nuts, obviously.
That's great. They're nuts.
They're nuts.
I love
are
that.
fucking nuts.
Yeah, I love
They are.
that.
Wait, is that
one's
Aragorn
Gimli.
on the top?
Probably.
Is he looking at his last dawn?
Yes. Yes. And then
His
finally.
last dawn or his last dong?
Ooh. I said
mean, that's kinda dumb
DAWN,
looking.
but
That's
it could
his
work
last
here
dong.
as both.
And then finally, the forest that has appeared
Fucking
are
baseball bat.
represented.
Fuck New York.
You can never make a phallic sausage again.
I knew this was going to go over well. And then finally, the forest that appears, our Ents are represented with broccoli.
I love it.
As soon as we were introduced to Ents, I was like, I need to find a way to make them broccoli.
You are so interesting.
And I have to say,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really enjoy the balsamic reduction detail.
Oh, I forgot.
of the water going through.
I did. I made the stream out of a balsamic glaze.
So, to be clear, everything you've described for people who are just listening has been set up like a map.
Yes.
This is fucking ridiculous.
There will
a
be
3D
photos
map
on the
of
socials.
food.
Yeah.
Laura, I invited you into one of the sacred places of my heart. And you brought this giant sausage.
It's a little rude.
It's
It's a little rude. It's a lot rude.
It's the Hornberg. It's a whole horn.
The Hornberg.
I'll never not think of that again.
How do we eat this?
One piece at a
We
time.
make a little plate.
That's a you problem, bro.
The left one.
Gimli! And not on the bread? I don't know.
This
We have-
old ass looking raisin is definitely gambling.
No, the raisins are the orcs.
Oh, never mind.
Goblins.
Then it's whatever this is. This little
Cheese.
Oh, Chris has breached the Hornberg.
Oh,
No,
you cut
the wall is down.
divvies out of it.
Laura,
That's cool.
Laura put crenellations in the cheese. If you know what that means.
Is that what they
kudos.
call it? Crenellations?
Yeah.
Wow. We live such different lives.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's true.
I think you broke Pat.
This cheese is so good.
I say that sometimes when I don't quite connect with somebody. That's my nice way of saying, that's weird.
What the fuck, dude?
If he could read, he'd be so upset.
You know the name of the squares that are cut out of the stone for medieval people to put their head in and look out at who's coming and put an arrow in.
Well, he admitted he reads a lot of historical fiction. You need to know that
Yeah.
stuff when you're hearing the story.
And nonfiction.
and
Absolutely.
ramparts and
True.
Yeah.
dikes. and
Nothing
the
wrong
whole-
with it. It's just weird.
Yeah. I know a lot of verbs. There's some adjectives that are familiar.
Speaking of ancient, war terms,
Uh-huh.
helm is a word for helmet, correct? Like an armored headpiece.
Yeah.
And Helms Deep is named after a person named Helm.
Yes.
So they were just walking around calling some guy Helmet.
Helmut.
You
that
should have
doesn't feel
seen
right.
his head.
Well, we did when we went to go see the War of the Rohirrim.
Yeah. Oh, Chris. I remember a while ago I said, "What is a helm?" And
Yes.
you looked at me, and then I looked away from you.
Yeah.
So Helm is again an ancient hero of the Rohirrim,
Yes.
who they named this fortress after. But yeah, to Laura's point, the dude is just named Helmet.
That feels wrong.
Well, that was probably the most interactive menu / map meal I've ever had.
Oh.
Oh,
Pat
God.
is going.
Pat's trying so hard to eat that salami.
Laura, that's still got plastic on it.
Laura left the plastic on the.
Okay. For our listeners,
Fully did not
It's like a
expect
condom in your
anyone
mouth.
to eat that.
You pulled that out like a,
so for our poor listeners, Pat just grabbed
a full summer
Hornberg.
sausage.
the Hornberg or a full salami,
Nuremberg.
and he had attempted to take a bite out of it. He did get through some of the side.
What do you mean attempted?
That's a really
25%
big
of that
bite.
is out.
I couldn't see from this side. Okay, he took a huge bite.
There
Okay,
was a sabotage because Laura did not remove the plastic and Pat ate the plastic.
but
Didn't
yes,
expect anybody to bite that.
actually,
Why
that's
would you put summer sausage on the board and not expect anyone to eat it?
It's literally a charcuterie board. Even the children are edible.
You were like, I thought you guys would go for the broccoli before the sausage.
Oh my God.
One giant dick of sausage.
It is,
Pat, how
it's
was
a very
it?
phallic.
It was pretty good. You know what? Don't knock it till you try it.
Listen, that's the phrase of the chapter of the episode. Don't knock it till you try it.
True.
Suicide.
So give Helms Deep a try, guys. Okay, you know. Anyway, thank you so much for joining in this episode. This has been a fucking awesome chapter. Chapter 7 was, I think, probably the best chapter of the book so far.
I think you say that every week.
Well, that's because they're getting better. And also, I'm trying to be nice, but you know, the first couple chapters were like a B minus.
B movie.
Yeah, they were fine. They weren't A+ chapters. We're now getting into the A's. This was an A.
Okay.
It would be a plus if the geography was explained a little bit better.
That's what
But
you have me for.
This is an A chapter, and I'm just happy that we're in the A's, you know? And I feel spoiled. The Fellowship of the Ring, 22 chapters. I would say at least 8 of them were A chapters.
Gosh, more than that.
There's a lot of them.
The Fellowship is just banger after banger.
Yeah. I loved it. I'm excited for the next chapter. What's chapter 8 called?
the road to Isengard.
The Road to Isengard.
That's
they
where they were going
taking-
in the first place.
Yep. Womp womp.
This
And
was
now,
a detour.
I guess the bigger question is, for who?
That's another great.
Right? We have several characters heading to Isengard now. So, anyway, thanks so much for tuning in this week. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow for Fool of a Took podcast. We love doing this for you guys, and it really helps us when you just simply leave a comment. And also, thank you to the people who are leaving actual reviews, actual comments. We would love a review on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Overcast, whatever you're listening on. Leave a little review for us. And also, I think we earned 5 stars.
Heck yeah.
We put our heart and soul into this. We have a food map. We've gone through at least 5 bottles of wine tonight. And,
This is commitment.
this is commitment.
Look, if
That's got to be at least 4 stars out of 5.
right, look, if you like what you're seeing, 4 stars. If you think it's great, 5 stars. If you don't like us,
3 stars.
How do you evaluate your life?
If you don't like us, 2.5, 3.
No, it's
fine.
okay. It's not for everybody. It's just art.
If you don't like us, please don't review. It helps if we have good.
Oh my God.
All right.
Please don't.
Also, please don't do it. Thank you guys for
stop
tuning in to
commenting.
Fool of a Took. Make sure you stay tuned.
You
next
better
week
take a bite out of that.
for.
Take that plastic
I'm
off.
not eating this fucking thing. That's disgusting.
Get his condom off.
Make sure you tune in. Don't put it on your jeans. Don't put it on your jeans.
Not.
Oh.
So much worse.
Tune in next week for the road to Isengard. We'll see you on Full of a Took for chapter 8 of season 2, which is the 2 Towers. That's disgusting. We love you.
Please stop pointing that at people.
Magic trick.